YouTube land. Today we're cooking from the Villian's cookbook, and it's actually inspired from Ka, the Jungle Book, and it's called Ka's Aloo Gobi. Aloo Gobi. I think I'm saying this wrong. I know it's an Indian dish. It looks like Aloo Gobi, but I think it's like pronounced Aloo Gobi or Aloo Gobi. I kept looking it up, and of course now's a good record. I cannot pronounce it. I'm just watching it. But anyway, I'll show you a picture of it right here. So, like I said, I think this is an Indian-inspired dish because I think I've had this at Indian places. I absolutely love Indian food, but I am terrible at pronouncing the names. And most of the time we go for like a buffet, so I just kind of eat what looks good and don't really learn the names, which is very culturally insensitive of me, and I really should do that sometime. But anyway, it's a vegetarian dish too, so for those of you that are vegetarian, this could be right up your alley. But I've got some stuff here ready to go, so I'm just going to kind of give you a quick little summary of my countertop here before we get started so you can kind of see where we are. First, you serve this over rice. So I have my Instapot here, and I'm going to use basmati rice here, and I'm going to make it my Instapot. The Instapot is my absolute favorite way to make rice, so that's how I'm going to be doing that. It does call for a diced onion, so I've got my onion here now. Something I have, I don't know if you've ever seen in my videos, I don't think I've showed it, but I've got this little thing here. So you put the onion in here, you cut it, and it dices the onion into nice little square dice bits. I use this all the time for dicing my onions. I mean, if I have to cut onions because they want big chunks, I do that, but for, I'd say 90-some% of the time, I'm using this thing to cut up my onion. I'm one of those people that like their eyes water from cutting onions, so I'm not a big fan of doing it by hand if needed. I've got the cauliflower and some potatoes here that I'll peel, and those are basically the ingredients that are going into that. Over here, I've got some of my spices and things that I need to utilize, which I won't get into exactly, but a couple little things. The recipe says to use fresh ginger, grated. So I just had this ginger paste. I've used this ginger paste like numerous times for anytime I need ginger and stuff. You know, I have a few Asian inspired dishes that use some ginger, and I just always use this. I think it works very well. And finally, the recipe said to get a 14-ounce can of plum tomatoes and break them in by hand. And I couldn't find them at my grocery store. I was like, oh, that's weird. I guess I don't really ever buy whole canned plum tomatoes. Maybe I was looking in the wrong place. I mean, I was looking where like the crushed and diced tomatoes are. So a quick Google search said that the best substitute would probably be crushed tomatoes. So that's what I did. I got a can, see, I'm losing my thoughts, of crushed tomatoes. So I'm going to be using these instead on the recipe. It just says you break them with hand. I think this will work. Again, it's just adding some flavoring. So I think it'll work. So that's what I'm going to do. But yeah, so this is kind of my little setup going. And I don't always show you that, so I wanted to in this video to kind of give you an idea. And we're gonna get started in just a minute. So off to the side here, you can see I kind of got my cauliflower and potatoes and stuff diced up, ready to go. Grab my onion, it's down here ready to go. I've got all my spices and stuff, and I've got the oil heating up on the skillet. So here in a minute, I'm gonna add the spices to the skillet and kind of let them simmer, and then I'll start adding the other ingredients. So here, after I've got my ginger added, I'm starting to add the rest of the spices that comprise the flavors of this dish. All right. Get this all mixed in together. Like, where's, almost forgot the turmeric. Come on, where's the bold orange color that you're supposed to get? Ooh, those fragrances smell amazing. Alright, so I'm gonna let the onions saute in this for just a few minutes before I start to add the rest of the ingredients. Okay, let's start adding some of the potatoes and the cauliflower. Excited about the cauliflower. I got ahead and I chopped it into the florets, as it had mentioned. Something I've done with broccoli, and I don't do it with cauliflower too much, is I buy the pre-chopped cauliflower in the big bag, because it might cost a few more bucks, but I just love the time that it saves. So I know they sometimes do that for cauliflower as well. I sort of maybe wish I would have bought one of those, but live and learn. Interesting. I thought from the pictures it would be more orange. This definitely looks a little more yellow, but of course I haven't added the tomatoes yet. That could help with that coloring. I'm supposed to let this cook for about 8 minutes, then add the tomatoes and a little bit of water, and then let it cook for longer until the vegetables are nice and soft. Okay, so time to add the tomatoes. It's definitely adding more of a sauce to it, so we'll see how this works. I'm going to add the water and then let it simmer until the vegetables are cooked. Okay, here it is done on the stove. Still sizzling away a little bit. All right, let's do a quick taste test. Yeah, not bad. Tomato does overpower a little bit some of the other flavors I smelled when cooking it in the oils and the seasonings, but still pretty tasty. Okay, let's review Ka's Aloo Gobi. Aloo Gobi. I apologize when I butcher the word so much. Anyway, overall, really enjoyed it. I thought it was really nice. It was really flavorful. My husband liked it. It was interesting though, he was a few bites in, he's like, wait, is this cauliflower? He's like, he thought it was chicken when he was like getting it for his plate and stuff. He wasn't paying attention to what I was doing. And he was eating it like after a few bites, he's like, wait, is this cauliflower? I was like, I really thought it was chicken. He's like, actually, don't really notice. So if you're one of those people that maybe tries to sneak a meal in that's vegetarian for people, this could be a good option. Again, with the tomatoes, it was very tomato heavy. So it kind of, I think it lost some of the stewed tomatoes, lost some of the flavor. As I'd mentioned, the recipe calls for the plum tomatoes that you kind of squeeze and put over it. I couldn't find that. Used the stewed tomatoes since they were in the can and not, again, it says plum tomatoes, but the can doesn't say like fresh tomatoes. I think it was nice because I think that the juice from the tomatoes helped cook and soften the potatoes and the cauliflower. So it added to it. But I do think what happened though is that it did tape down some of those initial flavors from like the cumin and the masala and turmeric, which I was smelling when I was cooking it, which smelled fabulous, but those flavors were a little lost in the tomato sauce. So I think if you don't like those strong flavors, I think adding the stewed tomatoes would be a really great alternative for you to get a really nice dish and avoid some of those flavors. If it were me to do it again, I might experiment with this. I think I might do it again. I might use diced tomatoes next time. I might still look for those plum tomatoes. If I use the stewed tomatoes again, I might just use like half a can and just see how it works. If I need to add more to get the, to get the things to cook really well. But either way, it was an enjoyable dish, and I have some ideas making it ahead. So I'll get into my rankings. The first is the ingredients on a scale of 1 to 5. I'm gonna give it like a 2, 2.5. The ingredients aren't super hard to find, but some of these spices like the masala, it's the garam masala. I think I'm saying that wrong. Garam masala. It can be a little pricey, some of the spices, like $8, $9 bottles. To me, that's expensive for a spice, in my end. But, everything else isn't bad as far as that goes, so that's why I'm going to be like 2.5. Difficulty level on a scale of 1 to 5, with 1 being easy and 5 being difficult. I think this is a solid right in the middle, like a 2.5. It really wasn't hard. Like I said, you put everything in the dish, you had to dice things. I still didn't find it complicated. You put everything together, you simmer it, you let it cook. I think a 2.5, maybe a 3 is a good judgment for that one, honestly, because I don't think it was super difficult. But again, everybody's skill levels are different. And then would I make the skin on a scale of 1 to 5, with 1 being never and 5 being absolutely all time? I think I'm gonna give it a solid 4. So 4 means really didn't like it. Really did like it a lot. It's definitely gonna be something I make again. It's probably not gonna be something I make all the time or work into my normal rotation of dishes, but I'm definitely going to work this in every so often. I think this is a really good option too if you're one of those people maybe tries to do like meatless Monday or something. I think this is a good option for this. But yeah, overall, enjoyable dish.